Louisiana beer reviews. It's about 7:30 right now, 7:40 maybe, around that time. And we're looking at an American beer that just hit the market September 2014. It's called Guinness Blonde American Lager Number 1, meaning number 1 of the Discovery series. Okay, Guinness Discovery series with Mosaic and Willamette American hops, combined with our famous Guinness yeast. Okay, be interesting to see what other things come from the Discovery series. This is very odd because, well, it's not odd, it's just interesting. Red Stripe. I noticed about a year or two ago they said Red Stripe Jamaican style lager, and that tipped me off. And I looked and I said, Latrobe. City Brewing. City Brewing is a company owned by I don't know who, and I can't find out. What they did was they took over the Highlandman Brewery in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Later, they somehow acquired the old Schlitz Brewery in Memphis, which I believe had become a Miller Brewery, and the Latrobe Brewery in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, which had been acquired by Anheuser-Busch and sold off. It seems strange to me that these people, and they say it's Melanie Brewing, and I asked City Brewing about that, are you owned by Melanie Brewing? And I got a very cagey answer. But these people, how could they have the cash to buy these 3 big breweries and pull this off? I don't know. Anyway, I know they brew some Pabst beers. In fact, they brew Sapporo. If you get a recent Sapporo 12-ounce bottle, it'll say La Crosse. They brew Samuel Adams beers. Samuel Adams doesn't like to admit, or they feel uncomfortable letting people know that their beers are largely contract brewed, but this, or to a large extent, contract brewed, and this is a fact. And then Diageo has started making an agreement, not just Sapporo, but Diageo, with Melanie Brewing, City Brewing, whatever they're really called, to do their beers. The Red Stripe Light, Stripe Light, and Guinness. Well, see, Diageo owns Red Stripe and Guinness. All right, 5% alcohol. Guinness Blonde is 21 international bitterness units. It gets an okay score on Beer Advocate. I think it's like 113 reviews. Excuse me. 38 out of 100 on Rate Beer, so that's low. 83 out of 100 for the style, so that tips you off. It gets a high score in the style, pretty high score, but low overall. What does that tell you? The people that rate the beers on that site don't like the style American lager. So they're showing a glass sort of like this on the Guinness website, so I'll try to use that. And since it is produced in America, I'll have to keep it for my collection. I didn't have a $quarter, so I'll use a Canadian $2 coin to try to preserve the cap. And I bought this at Rouse's in New Orleans yesterday. My daughter was sick, or still sick. She had a cold, and so I had to go all the way to New Orleans. I didn't have to, but I went all the way to New Orleans to bring her some hot soup that her mother made, so got all that smoke. I said, since I'm down in New Orleans, close to the University of New Orleans, heck, I'll go do some beer scouting. And I went to Rouse's, and I found this and some other stuff. So it was, she got the soup, and I got the beer. All right. That is very golden. That is not really blonde. Is this blonde? This is burnished, deep, old gold. Even has an orange tint to it, you could say. So, right there is a problem. It doesn't look blonde. It's not fitting the description. Looks nice. Just doesn't look, to me, what I would think of as a blonde lager. Thin white head. I mean, this has almost the color of a batch 19, I would say. The aroma is pungent, It's full. It's sweet. It's bready. It even has a little bit of syrupiness, so it smells really nice. One more thing about City Brewing. These are the people that bring us beers like Four Loko, Earthquake High Gravity, and the Camo line of beers, and a bunch of other stuff, which is considered like the worst beer in the world. So this company, City Brewing, has made a career out of producing the filth of the planet. But then Guinness says we contracted with master brewers at City Brewing. That's their words. Look on their website. So what does that tell you? They are master brewers. They can make trash by design. You see, they're not accidentally making trash because they don't know what they're doing. They're making trash because there's a market for it. But then they flip right around and they're making this. It's really, there is a very noticeable hop presence here. Well, it's an A+ on the aroma, I have to say. I'll tell you what. It's got even a honey aspect, and that's coming from those hops. Some sharp, slightly citrusy hop bitterness, very mellow, but it's there. And toasty, moderate barley malt flavor. And I had this pretty cold. I think it would come out even better if it would warm a bit, although you don't want a lager to warm much. The mouthfeel is medium, a little slick, and the finish is crisp, refreshing, and the drinkability is unbelievable. 5% alcohol, I mean, they hit the nail on the head with this one. I mean, I'll tell you what. Let's think of other 5% alcohol beers. Coors Banquet, I think this is better than that, although I'm not. The ones I'm about to list, I don't dislike. I'm just saying I think this is superior. Although this is more expensive, $8.99 a six-pack. Budweiser. What are some other 5%? Well, those are the two big ones right there. And then you got your other ones that are a little lower: Pabst Blue Ribbon, Miller Genuine Draft, Miller High Life. Michelob 4.9. Yeah, this is really different than those though, because those are yellow fizzy beers, as we call them. More traditional American style lagers. This one is like the so-called pre-Prohibition style beers, which if you read the literature before Prohibition, they were still yellow fizzy beers. That's sort of a recreation of history, that the beers were dark like this, and then something happened in World War I and World War II. Because if you read the description from the companies like Schlitz and Coors and Budweiser from like 1912 or whatever, and how they describe their beers, you know, they're crisp, sparkling, light beers. Okay. Some books people like me to show books. Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon, 2014 book by Dave McGowan. David McGowan did a lot of research. He's from Los Angeles, on the Laurel Canyon scene. Well, this is a fascinating book. He first issued this as a series of web posts, internet posts, and it just developed, and he got together with some good editors, and they tightened up tightened it up into a book. And it's fascinating because really what this is about is like he called it, the 7 degrees of Charles Manson. He basically is looking at the entire folk rock, if you want to call it, psychedelic music scene from the late 60s, early 70s, and he's it's sort of like a nexus. You take any of these acts, and the spoke goes back to the hub, and in the hub is Charles Manson in many ways. And also, there's a connection with military intelligence, British and U.S. The occult, Satanistic groups, Anton Levy, Kenneth Angermeyer, Anita Pathenberg, and all of these people in these murders and children disappearing all over Los Angeles. Also, he brings in a very likely connection with the Black Dahlia murder, ritualistic murder in 1947. So it's a very fascinating book. There is even a connection with the Process Church of Final Judgment and Son of Sam incidents, and maybe more. So definite book to read. And this beer, how would I rate it? Yeah, I just love that hop action is really interesting. Really interesting. I'm going to have to go with an A. For the style, the American style lager, it's an A+, okay, for sure. It just is a king of that. For beer overall, I would say A-. I don't see how you could go lower than an A-. So, laissez les bon temps roulés. You did a great job, Guinness and City Brewing. And I'm going to end this review by saying, y'all come on down to chilly, dry, and autumnal southeastern Louisiana.